Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on the JayBee Milly channel. I am JayBee and I've just finished watching episode 9 of Velma and I have a lot to say about it. But before we get into that, please bear in mind that whilst we are going to gloss over some spoilers here, as in we're not going to reveal too much, we're just going to speak in vague terms about the plot and imply certain things. If you do want to go into the show completely spoiler free, then I'm recommending watching episode 9 before watching this video, and then maybe come back and tell us your thoughts about the episode. And also bear in mind that this video will only show the visual that's on screen now, so don't fret about missing anything. We are going to post more content about this, such as an Easter egg breakdown and a full-on reaction that will show all clips of the scenes, so please do subscribe for that as well. But without further ado, let's get into our thoughts. First of all, it was very disappointing the way that the tone of the show kind of kicked off with this episode, to be honest. So there was a monumental breakthrough in the last episode and certain things were discovered that connected towards the initial victims, and I kind of maybe naively thought that it would be a big reveal in the world of the show, in the context of the show. But in actual fact, it was just treated as a bit of a joke. I don't know if this is like some type of formula or something that they're getting from the MCU where everything is treated as a joke, but we get the reveal and then it is just part of life. It felt a bit weird, like some type of SNL skit, some type of weird thing from the kooky era of Doctor Who where it's almost treated as a normal thing in universe as opposed to like, holy heck, this is ridiculous. So if you know what I'm talking about, it's basically things connected to all three of the victims. They were just kind of paraded around like it wasn't monumental, and I guess because of the way the adults have been portrayed so far in the show, you don't fully expect it to be, but the fact that there were law enforcement officers and genuine people of authority that were in the episode and were seemingly trying to solve the mystery, it's kind of like, do we not get anything about this other than here they are, it's a bit of a joke. So that was kind of a bit of a shame. One thing that I feel like was a bit wasted potential, and we'll get to it when I start to get into the full review in another episode when we do it weekly or anything like that. We learn that Velma's mum is pretty toxic, and I think it's wasted potential as far as we do tend to glorify people that are no longer around or we no longer have access to, you know. We always put them on a pedestal because they seem like some type of immortal figure, if that makes sense. And I think we do see that in general, you know, whenever someone unfortunately passes away, we rightly so remember the good stuff. But at the same time, you know, no one's perfect, and I think when they get to a stage where they're no longer around, it can be very easy to view them as perfect. And so for that to be flipped on its head and we actually learn, hang on, maybe this person isn't that way that Velma's, you know, built her up to be, I think it was kind of a bit of nuance, and the first time that the show's really shown any sign of nuance. And whilst the seeds were planted, I feel that ultimately it didn't go anywhere, so I was very disappointed with that. But it's so weird. A lot of the people that don't like this show in terms of the Scooby community, I'm not talking about anti-SJW YouTube or anything like that, but the Scooby community, I kind of feel like it is disproportionately, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I just mean in terms of ratio, it's disproportionately very traditional value, white, Christian Americans. I kind of feel like, at least from the point of view of the intimate Scooby community, that tends to be what we're looking at. And a lot of them dislike this, but I actually feel like a bit of the message of this episode is promoting the idea of that, I guess, more nuclear family household. So we see that the lack of a nuclear family household seems to have been a detriment to Velma. So take that for what you will. I just kind of thought it was interesting that a very anti-fundamentalist show, and it was presented as almost the antithesis to a Scooby-Doo Where Are You, that was very much, you know, pro-traditionalism. It almost promotes that value more explicitly than any other Scooby-Doo show that we've had before. So it's a bit weird to me that they kind of just threw that in there. I don't know. But I don't feel like this is spoiling too much because it was implied with the trailers. But we do get a countdown in this episode. And if you know me, I am not a fan of countdown episodes at all, and I don't mean the game show. I just like think back to Doctor Who again, like I've mentioned, something that I'm really passionate about. My least favorite writer, Chris Chibnall, has such a trope of adding in countdowns, and I do see some merit in it. Like, if you need some jeopardy, it gives you jeopardy, even if it's false, even if it's artificial, it's there. But I kind of feel like if you need a countdown episode to add jeopardy to the penultimate episode, then what was the point on all the episodes that came before it? If there was a countdown episode in the middle, okay, sure. If it was a filler episode that revolved around a countdown, fine. But when we're such in a position where we're really ramping up the story, or you'd expect we're ramping up the story, I feel like we don't need a countdown, especially with the revelations after the last episode. The story in and of itself should have been the countdown. It should already be implied that there's some type of threat or danger going on without the need for, this thing that's just being shown to us. I do feel like it wasn't necessary, and it was almost the easy way out for the writers to just make it clear this time the episode has stakes, when in actual fact it really didn't. Like, it was kind of a bad episode in terms of maybe, okay, I think my overall thoughts so far is it's a decent episode of Velma, but an absolutely miserable penultimate episode. And I just feel like they wasted a lot of potential here, to be honest. And it is so exemplified within that, in the fact that we then take this episode, this critical episode, to start throwing in some random subplots, such as like drama with the baby, a popularity subplot, and I just expect that more from either a filler episode or an earlier episode, as opposed to let's take a break from the mystery to focus on high school stuff, which I didn't really like at all. And when we look back at that first episode, I thought, this is strange. Why not make this a college show? Why is it in high school? And I guess this episode has stuff that possibly, and I'm emphasizing possibly, was only possible within a high school setting, because you'd assume that college kids would be beyond some of the things that we see go on in this episode. But it's the world, like, we see the adults aren't beyond some of the stupid stuff that happens in this episode. So I still don't see this as an excuse for this to be a high school show, but that's neither here nor there. That's just the whole series in retrospect. But we do get a bit of a plot twist, or maybe not plot twist in this episode. Some things that do subvert expectations, and when it was revealed, quote, I was shocked, but I also kind of thought maybe this makes sense. And I think they do a pretty good and effective job of pulling that off. And for all it didn't last too long, and it wasn't miraculous writing, I found that me personally, I was impacted by it more than I thought. And so to that end, it was like, has this show done a better job world building than I've given it credit for? I think slightly. I think for the most part, it's the overall writing that lets the show down. And speaking of the writing, there is something that I guess I should praise, and that's how this episode handled Norville. I feel like this was, in essence, Norville's episode, but again, I think just too little, too late. And then the countdown, like I say, ultimately led nowhere, and then we get given the only piece of information that really mattered going forward. So it's another one of those episodes where all we needed was that one bit of information, and that was it. It's like this series could have either been 2 episodes shorter, or we could have had 2 better episodes, and that kind of hurts, because it's meant to be a mystery show first and foremost. No matter what they've said, it has hindered upon a mystery, whether they want to make that a dramatic mystery, a comical mystery, I don't really care. The mystery was at the heart of the marketing after all, but it just doesn't deliver in this episode. So that's it, my overall verdict: decent Velma episode, absolutely piss poor penultimate episode. So hopefully the season finale will deliver, Hopefully it's going to be good, but at the moment I don't have a great deal of hope. But what do you think about this? What do you think about episode 9? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Please let us know in the comment section down below, and if you do want to hear more first impressions, then please like, comment and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.